Okay.
Okay, that. Yep.
Hello. So we are here with Dominician Gennari, and I was just introduced to him very recently, and we started talking a little bit and hit it off. And I am really excited to help introduce you to the rest of the world. You know, we don't have a massive following, but I know that your story and our story are very significant in today's day and age, and what we're trying to do to help humanity in our different ways. But this is where, you know, everything gets really relative and fun because we get to find each other, is how I feel about it. So just a quick introduction. I have a little intro. We are in a war for the minds, the physical bodies, and soul preservation of every human on the planet. We approach this as a connected army of many, working towards the common goal of awakening our kind to the matrix we have all been enslaved in. Children have been harmed for an eternity, and this doesn't stop until we bring an entire consciousness to it and its existence. Certainly, it sounds very sci-fi as you hear the cliche, and truth is sometimes stranger than fiction. I am happy to introduce Dominician Gennari, who actually put this into a book and a script. And I'm really excited for you to tell your story, because I think that a warrior like you, like myself, like many others, you deserve some recognition and you deserve some praise, because I know what you walked away from. And I want the rest of the world to know what you walked away from. And to know that there's still really good people out there fighting for the greater good. So with that being said, I can get wordy, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself and kind of give us your background, Dominician.
Maria, that was wonderfully said, and especially the part where you're talking about where we're headed and what is happening in the world around us. And it's staggering that I'm watching in the moment people starting to wake up. I had a conversation with a fellow the other day, and it was interesting conversation, because he had gone from one perspective in alignment with obviously what's happened with governments, and he has now come out the other end questioning everything. And this is beautiful. This happened in a very short space of time.
Woo!
So
That's
yeah,
such a relief.
it really is. So wonderfully said. My hat goes off to you. So yes, basically I've had a rather interesting experience when I was a fantasy fiction author, as you know, and I was approached by producers in the US. To avoid any implications, I won't state names and organizations, but my story was very interesting to them because it featured a theme of reincarnation. It featured the divine hologram. It featured these words that are very triggering to the culture and very interesting. So that's why my story was gathered by these people. Being the individual like myself, I was excited to be involved with these people. However, things took a little bit of a strange turn, you could say, when elements were being pushed into the story, as we progressed. And it got to a point where the story was, not only was it no longer my story, but there were elements in the story that were perverse. And, that whole idea of adding a young audience, the young audience eyes to the story is challenging when you have themes that are sexualized.
Right.
For young people. If it's for adults, it's different because that's adults. They do that. I personally still don't find that necessary in my writing. I don't put any form of gratuitous sex in my writing anyway. It's just not me. However, I find that this bar is being lowered so much so that these concepts are allowed in and encouraged and soft sold as being edgy, contemporary, competitive, and the words that these individuals in these positions use and how much adulation they pour upon you. It's interesting how I turned around to not only notice what was happening, but say, no, I'm not going ahead with that. And I turned down, potentially millions of dollars, franchises,
Right.
book deals, game studio deals.
Right.
And I couldn't do it. Hand on heart, I from that good, ethnic Christian background I come from, I just couldn't go ahead with it. Just for the sheer perversion of what they wanted to do to the story. And
Wow.
here I am speaking with you, Maria, and I'm in such a good place. No, I don't have millions of dollars. um, I
We have
don't have that.
boxes everywhere.
Yeah, I know. We got
Like
boxes everywhere. Yeah,
disorganized.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's life.
Yeah.
That's life. We keep pushing forward. But I know that when you're in this element of truth and when you're standing in that flame of truth in the moment, as our good friend Sasha always speaks about, that moment of truth in the now, you're unstoppable, and nothing is changing what's coming. You know it with your creations and your help and your healing of the world and people. And I'm glad to be here with you sharing this. So that's pretty much what I went through with my story,
Yeah.
with my
I
books.
I think
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. And to have the courage in that moment, because here was your golden goose. Here's everything that you worked for your entire life. And uh, you and I both know when you get that far into it and you have worked and you have, committed everything financially and emotionally to something, and then you're here on this cusp and you don't have anything left. You're waiting for someone to pick it up and say, this is beautiful, right? Same thing with my product line. This is beautiful. And I understand exactly what this means. I'm going to
Mm,
take this and I'm going to help you distribute this to the world, right? And you're here and here's your golden
mm,
goose. And you're like, thank God, I'm here now. I made it. And all of a
mm.
sudden it's perverted
Yeah.
and it's turned into something that wasn't you, right?
Mm,
So now you look around and you're like, well, I still have nothing. I had to say no because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror had I said
mm.
yes. A lot of people don't know this, but I was approached a year and a half ago by something that, I mean, they called themselves the big I word, Illuminati,
Mm.
type of thing. You're never going to have to want for anything. We'll make sure that your business succeeds. We'll make sure that your family is safe. You know, come with us, pledge your allegiance. Your covenant is what it was, right? That type of
Wow.
thing. So it was
Mm.
it was
Yeah.
an approach, and and I said, and this is what I fired back with, and I said, so if you're saying that you can get me there and you can make sure that I'm protected and that my family's protected and that my company thrives and I, won't have to want for anything and that, people are going to have access to this and it's going to be great. If you say that you can do that, then I'm pretty sure that I can do it twice as good. So I don't need you. I do not need
Mm.
you. My heart is bigger than that, and I don't need your help. So it was very defiant, but at the same time, there's always a part of you that is this a consideration for me? Am I thinking the right way? Because there's a manipulation within the language, just like you said. They
Yeah.
they manipulate and they take these words and they make it sound so wonderful, like, how am I thinking correctly? That you question yourself for a second and then you take a step back and say, whoa, I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
I got here on my own and I'm the one that did it, not you. So you don't get to use me, right? I mean, that's pretty much.
It's very well said. Yeah. And speaking to that point about the language and how it's expressed being an author, that's what my strength is understanding how the language is put together. And this is incredible how this came through for me. I managed to study with a retired FBI hostage negotiator
Wow.
before going into this. And I never would have found this gentleman. I found him, Chris Voss, his name is, and I studied with this incredible man. And I was taught how to look for insincerity, how to look for the negotiation fundamentals in which wanting to make the deal work for everyone, not just for Hollywood, work for me, the human, the
Right.
sovereign. And it was clockwork. It was textbook. I
Like
emailed this
manipulation.
person, and it was textbook. So, and this person's like, "You have a
Wow.
sociopath on your hands. You have a sociopath on your hands. So you've got to
Wow.
handle. Yeah, you've got to handle
You.
that." And
Yeah.
yeah, amazing.
You know what? That was someone looking out for you.
Yeah,
That was the energetic universe making sure
yep.
that you had the correct doors open and that you had access to utilize exactly what you needed in that moment in time. I think
Mm,
that's remarkable.
yeah,
So I had,
rather remarkable.
it's wonderful. So
Yeah,
I wanted to, for people that don't know you, just give us a little
yeah.
bit of your background.
Yeah, sure. So I live in Melbourne, Australia, as you can hear from my funny accent.
Yeah.
I'm an author, but previous to my career as an author, I had a wonderful experience teaching in a primary school. I was a primary school music teacher. I have a background in music and production.
Yeah.
I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor and a national champion under the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu family, you could say. I won a few championships, which was an incredible experience, and I had the sheer gall to write my own fantasy book and story. And the reason why I delved into this so much is because I started researching ancient history, forbidden archaeology.
Yeah.
I was really unsatisfied with how a modern day academia presented things. It was none of it made sense to me.
Yeah.
There was so many question marks everywhere. You
So
have
many
these
missing pieces.
incredible, what's that, sorry?
So many missing pieces,
Oh,
right?
so many missing pieces. You have these elders in the Aboriginal community in which I had the honor of meeting and having a blessed ceremony for a piece of land that I had at that time. And I spoke with these people, and the history is so old. It is far older than anyone can imagine, and they know this. It's their traditions.
Yeah.
So having all of this knowledge, understanding secret societies, reading all the major religions. I read the Quran, the Sunnah, the Hadiths, the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata. I read the ancient Popol Vuh, the myths of the Mayans,
Wow.
the Book of Enoch, the Gnostic Gospels, the
You read
Apocrypha, and
Enoch.
I yeah,
That's a
yeah.
challenging book. The book of Enoch is very challenging.
It is. It's confronting too, because when you
100%.
have to yeah, you have to approach it from academic eyes, because if you start approaching, give it to a good religious person,
Yeah.
it's challenging for them, because Enoch is mentioned in the New Testament, I believe. However, it's in the Bible, I should say, not the New Testament. However, it's a far stretch when you read the Book of Enoch, and
Yeah.
it's a sci-fi saga of
Yeah.
space.
Right.
So yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of
So
people don't, a lot of people are not familiar. I mean, I would say
no,
99% of people are not familiar. And
mm,
it's actually not an inexpensive book either. So
no.
we actually have that book in my house.
Oh wow, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I
Talking
know
about
it.
the elect and all the angels coming down and teaching them how to make an armory of swords and makeup, and it's
Yes.
phenomenal,
Yes.
phenomenal.
And it's not necessarily fiction, people.
No, not
It
at all.
there you have to get to that place in your conscious development, which a lot of people are not there. uh, the other reason that I was taken aback by your story as well is because one of your goals is to help people. This book, everyone, is called The War for Ascension, and it's written as a sci-fi, but it's actually based on true historical facts. Yep, The War for Ascension, A Crisis Reborn. So
Yeah,
you do this in part to help awaken the collective in
yeah,
such a way that what I found really interesting about this is that you do it in the same way that Hollywood and the CIA tries to put people to sleep. So you went in as a Trojan horse, and you're going to use their skills, right, for the greater good instead of the brainwashing demonic sleep state that everybody's in. So I
yeah.
thought that was ironic and beautiful, right? So
Mm,
that is one of your goals, right? I mean, you wanted to write
right.
this, but I mean, go ahead. I don't want to speak for you.
That's well said and well put. it's one of those situations where you see inside, you notice inside the entertainment industry, you notice how broken and how malevolent this industry is. And when I say these words, I want people to understand. You're watching Netflix tonight, this afternoon. You're watching Disney. You're watching all these streaming services, and sure, there may be elements of certain productions which sort of resonate and make sense, but you have to understand what messages and beats of the story that come in at certain times and how they're framed, and some of the research done on the documentaries on these platforms, it's so sloppy and loose. And I hope people start waking up to that and realizing that. But the book, The War for Ascension, as the title is stating, The War for Ascension, this is effectively a story of us. But just to give you a quick synopsis blurb, a young couple reincarnate back to a planet in crisis to fix a past transgression which put the planet in crisis in the first place. Sounds familiar?
Right.
We are the ones we have been waiting for. We can't wait for people from outside. We have to act. We are responsible. And the whole series will culminate in an Ascension event. Not to give too much away, but the entire series is based on this event where people, mainly the mortal races of the book, they come into this knowledge, and they understand the true nature of the evil that they've, in ways, encouraged and been a part of. So
Enabled.
this is our story, our story.
100%. That's wonderful. Yeah. So
I think so.
I think it is. I think it's genius, and it comes at a genius time. When did you start writing it? When did you wake up yourself?
Probably about 10 years ago. I had my first, you could say, awakening. And the funny thing is that it was watching, the Gaia platform. There was a few shows on Gaia that I thought, this is interesting. And I noticed that previous to that, there were talks of an individual that is very rich, flying politicians and actors and actresses, and to an island in the British Virgin Islands, and they were doing all this perverted stuff there. And people thought I was crazy for stating that.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, this is not crazy. This is happening. And lo and behold, a certain amount of years later, it's all coming out, and it's all true. Unfortunately, it's all true.
It's nice.
So it happened.
But it's
it's a part of
it.
It's a part of it.
Yep, that it's real.
Yeah.
Because to some extent, so same thing, right? About 10 years ago, but mine came in the form of, like I told you earlier, like someone took a 2x4 and kept continuously, literally just slapping the shit out of me, trying to, get me to pay attention. And, it's funny because just, very personal, but I never, believed in, and I'm not Catholic and I'm not religious, but I never believed in or took, birth control. I never believed in manipulating my body, or my hormones. And I'm not, never considered myself a tree hugger or anything like that by any means. Refused, and I worked in the medical field, refused flu shots, and they would come by with that. And I would say, I don't need that shit. I'm sure that's garbage. I don't need that shit. And I refused pretty much everything that I possibly could. So, there was always sort of that thing, but then it was a physical, medical condition, right? That really just started just beating the hell out of me. And that started in about 2011, 2012, when I first started noticing some things. And your body does that, just getting into natural health a little bit, your body and your cells will tell you, your intuition and your gut will tell you. And when something's wrong before you're symptomatic. And then by the time you're symptomatic, same thing with dehydration. By the time you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. The disease is already set in, right? Or the pathogenesis. So this is already set in. So, it takes that. And I think that, with what the earth went through in 2012, this happened to a lot of people, right? The timing was divine. I think it was harder on some than others. And I think that some still aren't there, really don't want anything to do with it. They don't want their world to change. Just leave me alone, right? I'll put my head in the sand. The reason too that I like your approach and your book and everything that you decided to put into it and do is because people need it. They need to be entertained when they're learning, or they will turn a blind eye, right? So now a lot of people, it's taken them, until this year, where, a lot of us were in this place maybe, 6 or 8 years ago, but it's taken a lot of people until this year to figure out that the Matrix is real. The Truman Show
Yeah.
is real. All of these things are real. And I'm frankly elated. I know that there's a lot of carnage and things happening right now, which I'm not happy about, and I live it every day. You live it every day. You're in Australia.
Yeah.
But it had to be this way, and I understand it. It's free will transpired, and it was going to take this kind of a cataclysmic event. It doesn't have to be exactly like what it was going to say that is going to happen in the Bible. It doesn't have to necessarily be. This is a cataclysmic event. Everything that's happening right now with the carnage. So hopefully people are still trying to think outside of the box. I love that you have approached this from an entertainment perspective, because I think it's needed. The young kids know what's going on. This is what I love about it, is you'll see different videos and things like that, and they know exactly what's going on, and they're not afraid to talk about it. Yet if you are of sound mind or scientific mind, you might be crazy, right? So
you of course.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been crazy for 10 years. So I wanted, because a lot of people don't understand what ascension means and what consciousness means. So I wanted you to just real quick state, what does ascension mean to you?
Well, in the truth, let's have a look at what the word ascension, how that's represented, and how we've always seen it represented from a religious perspective. If we look at the rapture, if we look at the Day of Atonement in the Quran, if we look at this cycle of the Yuga cycle in the Hindu faith, and we're at the Kali Yuga cusp now, where it switches over. So effectively, this is a great event that affects the masses of humans on Earth, okay? And this event will either be presented cataclysmically in a physical cataclysm, i.e. something like Atlantis, like a flood, or like a great storm of fire, infernal raging fire. However, what I've found when I've studied further the word ascension and what that means to me, is it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, that physical, specified physical flood, or it can mean a multitude of things. Like right now, what's happening, as you so wonderfully placed in your speech there, with the people that are leaving this plane, some very painfully and some in harsh conditions for whatever reasons, obvious reasons. And I find that that's a part of what ascension could mean for them, and also a great awakening of the knowledge of the race of the humans here on Earth. It sounds like sci-fi and world building, but it's really not. It's how I have patched all these ancient mysteries and all this knowledge that we have, that are traditions passed down from our ancestors, especially your ancestors from, Comanche, Apache, all the wonderful people that are inside of your community. They would harbor a knowledge with such depth about this event. So to wrap that up, ascension, yes, it can be a physical destruction of the land and a change in the landscape. It can also be a spiritual awakening. It can be, the death and carnage around us, and it's how we approach it. It's what we align to and how we walk that path as to how this is going to turn out for all of us. But it is a remarkable experience to be having right now. I can't even explain how I feel every day. It's a roller coaster,
jumping
but
out of your
there's
skin,
joy.
right? It's like jumping out of your skin, and every day I'm happy. I mean, every day. I don't. It's hard to explain, because I understand that there's carnage, there's death, there's destruction, there's insanity. There's grieving, there's all of these horrible things going on around me, and yet I feel untouchable because I'm so happy about, and I know that sounds, I don't mean that to sound superficial or non-empathetic, because certainly I help as many people as I can,
Yeah.
for free, without, I don't need recognition. I don't care. But I am strong, and I am emotionally very stable and very strong. And because I understand exactly what's happening, and I'm happy because I was not happy in the other realm, world, existence, because it was always, I don't want to say it wasn't good enough or
Mm.
dissatisfying, but I did feel like for most of my life that it really should be better than this. And if this is our existence, that we live to work and die, and then try not to get sick on the way, and that children and grandchildren are the ultimate, and there's nothing higher than that. I mean, that's great for some, but it wasn't good enough for me. So for
Mm.
me, the things that are happening right now are, I mean, I'm very happy about the things that are happening right now. I see everything going on, and I see people waking up, and I find people all over the world, or they find me, just like you and I here, and we are ascending, right?
Yep.
We are a part of a tribe that we never knew existed. And I think that it's beautiful. I mean, I'm closer with perfect strangers who I feel are, I feel very connected and soulfully connected to people that I'm not related to, more so than the people that I am related to. And then you start learning about the different existence, and quantum physics and the unified field, and you think, this is the most amazing, it's the most amazing time. And make no mistake about the reason that you're here and the role that you are playing in being here, right? I think that it's beautiful. And I love your explanation, for ascension, because it can be physical, it can be
Mm.
someone passing away, and this is my contribution, and this is the choice that I made. I was here during this time, I was an anchor, and now it's time for me
Hmm.
to go. Absolutely.
Yep.
And this is how I'm going to go. And I make this choice. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And it's a great explanation for all things. So just depends on how you look at it, right?
It really does. It comes down to how you perceive what that
Sure,
means to you, and
sure.
understanding that things are changing and that we are moving through these
Yeah,
times. So
yeah.
you phrased that wonderfully
Awesome.
and beautifully when you mentioned the idea of, where the world was not good enough, and it really makes sense because one thing, if we just look at the monetary system, we
Mhm.
have this magic Babylonian money system that means nothing. It doesn't represent anything except for that which is pretty evil.
Status.
And I
Yeah,
could never reconcile that with myself. Why am I going to work, waking up at 7 a.m. in the morning, coming back at 6 p.m.? And how does this is not what I came here for.
right.
That's a huge transgression
Mhm.
against the soul. And I hope more people, if they're listening and watching now, just that one part, if you can work that out and find a way to break away from that system and find, it's hard it was designed to be hard to escape,
That's
but
right.
if you can find a way, you'll be
Well,
better off. Yeah.
I tell people that, you don't know life until you figure out how to walk away, until you lose that parachute. I had a conversation this morning with a dear friend who's trying to lose her parachute, right? And I told her, I
Mm.
said, she's got a very big job, and much like, I had once upon a time a very big job. I had to turn my back on everything that I knew that I was not necessarily teaching the right things all the time. I had to be, retrained, and I retrained myself. But I had that conversation with somebody this morning and said, you have no idea the experience that you're about to have by walking away. You cannot imagine the doors that are going to open for you, and the people that you are going to meet when all of your
Yeah.
energy is focused where it's supposed to be focused, instead of splitting your energy between what you want to do and the rat race. So, I mean, I commend you for that, because I also took that leap. It's very scary. It's the, dipping your foot in the pool versus jumping in wholeheartedly. It is a fantastic voyage, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Great analogy.
yeah.
Great analogy.
So
Yeah.
with that, I wanted to tie into, and we'll get into your story just a little bit too with your characters, because I'm super curious about them.
Mm.
Part of this great awakening and the war for ascension is also, as I said in my intro, it's also physical. It's not just mental. It's not just someone else controlling your
Yeah.
mind. It's physical. It's emotional. And, you can't be emotionally stable if you're not physically stable, right? So all of these things tie in together. And, we were talking before the recording, and, this isn't a pitch or a promo by any means for my products, but I have to tell you that I am, anybody who ever, and it doesn't matter who you are, anyone who ever writes in or tells me that, you know what, I've tried some other things. I have to say that this is really different and I love it. I look forward to it. And you don't have to, right? You don't have to. Maybe it's not for everybody, but it makes me feel really good every time I hear that, because there is complete intention behind everything that I do. And my whole heart is in it, not just my finances, but my entire heart is put into everything, because these are things that people are going to ingest. And I know more than anybody, how important it is to be safe, how good it feels when someone loves something that you created. Same thing with your book. So you and I were talking earlier. So just, if you would just tell people what you use.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that would be
Definitely. I'm going to pull it up here, and to frame this, I've never ever jumped on any broadcast and spruiked anything in my life. I don't do that. Yes, I did have a background as a real estate agent, so I know how to sell things. But in the end, it's what you just said. Then it's about people are ingesting these things that you've created, these miracles, I would say, that you've created from nature. The one that I find is working for me, I'm using the CV well oil, and it's just sublingual, couple of drops below the tongue 2 times a day. And as I explained earlier, I've started dreaming again. That's the first thing I noticed. Now, dreaming is associated with the liver. I'm not a doctor, but I've read enough to understand that these are connected. So obviously it's detoxing my liver, and it's doing something to my liver, which is really good. But then the further I kept taking this, I started noticing I'm sleeping better. Pain in the left shoulder isn't as painful. I'm also noticing that I'm looking forward to taking this. Not addicted. It's just when I have these 2 times during the day where I take the CV oil sublingually, I'm looking forward to it, and the taste of it to me is so appealing now. And it's incredible. And it's like my body has gone, wow, you're awake to this now, and this is good. And I also use, as you can see, my soft and supple complexion. I also use the vitamin C cream.
actually, your
It
skin looks
smells
really
amazing.
good. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's the nicest thing I've put on my face, and I put it around my eyes, and I put it on my forehead and on my neck. And I train in jiu-jitsu, so I get a lot of that gi.
Yeah.
They choke you with the gi, so I rub it on before I train, and I'm okay. I'm good. So
Yeah, that's fantastic.
wonderful products.
What's funny,
Wonderful.
you said that about dreaming, and lucid dreaming, and you're dreaming again. We've had physician actually test it, and it's somebody who is very well known. I'm not going to drop any names or anything like that, but he's very, very well known, and he's a very healthy person. And he's already very hyperkinetic, to the point, I know that his cells are supercharged all the time. So he has a very high conductivity, excuse me, as far as his cells are concerned. And he actually used it for just a few days. And after just a few days, he was actually able to measure increased electrical conductivity on his own skin.
Wow.
So it doesn't surprise me.
Wow.
And we don't use it for pain. We actually use it for something far different. So we go after the source. We don't
Right.
I'm not looking to, of course, I would love to take your pain away, but that's a superficial Band-Aid. So I
Sure.
am very specific about the way
Yeah.
that I use the particular ingredients and go after the source. So it doesn't surprise me. It's tissue rebuilding, it's your immune system, it's the way things function. We can get down on the inside and start to really get to
Mm.
work. So, thank you for trying it and sticking with it, because it is all natural. It doesn't taste like chocolate. It's not meant to be that way. There's no preservatives in it. So, small to moderate batches is the way you get it done. And then trying to access as many people as we can. I feel privileged that you use it and that you love it. So, I thank you for that. I think that's wonderful.
Maria,
Yeah.
I'm the one, the honor is mine, and I'm the one that is grateful, that you've created this, and my whole family are taking it as well. So my
That's so
young son
wonderful.
is taking it. It's just I have to thank you. That I appreciate what you're saying, but I have to thank you. So thank
Well,
you immensely for doing
so
this.
healing people physically, emotionally, and mentally. The reason I love this community so much and is because I get to talk with people like you who we have this common goal in mind. And it is a completely different approach, that you take, that I take, that others take. And it really does take an army to get this party started and to clean up this mess. So I love that we can approach this from so many different angles, because healing is not just physical. It's just not. And breaking through those comatose psychoses barriers, that people have had in this dream state, and trying to get people to put the news down and, get out and experience something different like our ancestors did, live a different way. It's not easy. So what you've done is, like I said earlier, this is a Trojan horse by design, that was probably an unintended consequence, right? It just happened to be that way. And here you are. I wanted to ask you, so we talked about Gaia and, just, was there any one particular event that really sort of woke you up to say, what was your aha moment when you said, I am sick of this garbage, I'm going to write? So what did that? What was that
Yeah.
inspiration?
When it was that crossover period where I was discovering the new found mysteries of the world, and when I started listening to people like Greg Braden and Dr. Robert Schoch talking about the ancient Egyptian culture, and it I don't know how, but it made a lot of sense to me. And from that moment on, I found it very hard to go back to
Right.
start looking at the antiquities authorities to these different parts of the world, and also the whole question of the extraterrestrial presence. Now I'm reading this in all the ancient texts. The one thing they have in common is that one, we've been contacted by beings that are from heaven. Heaven is another word, I guess you could say, for cosmos or space, and that also we seem to come back and respawn, so to speak, into a new body. And this is very common in a lot of the religious texts, and that was a
Yes.
really big slap in the face for
And
me.
why is
Really
that
big.
ignored? It's very common in all the texts, yet it is the most
Yeah.
commonly ignored fact.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Because it's look
Well,
here, not here.
yeah, we have if you look at how certain aspects of religion, if you look at, like, even trace Catholicism back to, and this is not an attack on Catholics. I was raised in a good Catholic church myself. Absolutely not. Okay. But if we look at the history and the origins and how they've, you know, sequestered important information and how they've guided humanity into a specialized funnel of knowledge, that is very, controversial now, because we know it's like, why would you do that to a big group of people? Why would you stop them from acquiring this
Yeah.
knowledge? But
Yeah.
once again, the individual has to come to this, because when you start talking to a devout religious person about these topics, it's very confronting. And I get that. And piece by piece, we do it, little bit by bit, we do it. And
I've
hopefully,
tried.
you can,
I've tried
yeah,
a little bit, and the pushback I get is, all right, I can only handle you in little pieces, or they'll say,
yeah,
okay, I'm not ready to go there yet. And I'm like, well, do you
yeah,
think that we're alone? Did you always think, well, no. Okay. So now the door is open. Let's talk.
yeah,
Right. And you come to me after you do you for a little bit, and
sure.
we can have a conversation, right? Because this has been a decade's worth of research, and I had to check myself at the door and make sure that I wasn't a crazy professional lunatic,
Yeah,
right? I mean, how many times did you stop yourself and question yourself and say,
of course.
I'm of rational sound mind. I have a scientific thought, right? And my husband's an engineer, and I would ask him things like, and he would ask me, babe, are we the crazy ones? Like, really? Because someone just called me crazy. And I'm like,
Yeah,
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
yeah.
They always used to call free thinkers crazy, always, and
Mm,
give nicknames and dirty names to people who were different. Tree huggers, right? The hippies. It turns out the hippies had it right, for God's sake. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I know.
So did the
Turns
gypsies,
out that way. Hey,
the Native Americans, and the gypsies, and the hippies. They all had it right, and then they started to be poisoned. So
yeah,
they're like, we could go on forever, and I would like to you know schedule another talk, because I think it's a good time. We can seriously get
yeah,
into some different aspects of the book as well, but I wanted to
yeah.
know, is the book out right now? Is the
It
book
is.
available to purchase? And so where is it, the
Indeed,
one
it
for
is.
Ascension, where's it at?
Yep. So you can go to if you want to feed the beast, you can go to Amazon and type it in, and it'll come up on Amazon. I advise, though, go to my website, because I have special author copies that I sign. I give a bookmark. I give this beautiful little map that I've done. I give a sticker. I give a personalized note. It's a beautiful little package,
Yeah.
and that's on my website, dominiciangennari.com. And
Okay.
I'll send it anywhere except for Antarctica. If you're living in Antarctica, don't just order it off Amazon. They'll send it
So,
there.
you left Hollywood. This was going to be a movie, and this is going to be a series. And we talked before, and I'm
Yeah.
actually interested in the fact that, so you have this novel, right? And right now, and I'm
Yeah.
interested in the fact that you're going to continue to write as things are progressing. So this isn't
Mm.
going to be a one and done. I mean, you are continuing
Nah.
to develop material, and this will be a series, right?
Indeed, yes. It will
Yeah.
be a series. So I've already got the next. I'm doing 3 main books in the series, so
Okay.
it'll be a trilogy, maybe a quadrilogy, but I think trilogies, it's a lot to do. But I've got also accompanying novellas that are shorter, that are standalone books. However, they all tie into the main story, and that my next one will be coming out quite soon, maybe even before the end of the year. So, but strap yourself in. And you've got to understand right now, if you're trying to get published through the major legacy publishers, I'm one of the worst people for them. I'm writing ethical stories without the gender bending ideologies. I don't do any of that perverse stuff. I don't do graphic torture scenes that last 27 pages. They hate me for that, because I'm doing something that's ethical and that's truthful. So I have zero acceptance into most of those fields and most of those groups.
Yeah.
Most of them don't want anything to do with me, which is fine.
Yeah.
I'm totally good with that.
Totally fine.
If I've got your love, Maria, if I've got Sasha's love, if
Yeah.
I've got Joanne's love, if I've got all these people, my beautiful friends, the Soul Twins, Carly and Julia, all these people that are not related to me.
Yeah.
I do not know them on a blood level, but on a spiritual level and on a consciousness level, man, we've been places together, I tell you.
It's actually pretty wild, because I already feel it, so I'll feel things that I know are happening. There are some pretty talented, very good producers who are still remaining that I have some access to indirectly for certain things, and I'm sure that you do too. But I see this becoming a movie, much like the Marvel movies. So I see this already developing, and I see it coming at a time that it's very, very needed. So I will tell you that it's not going to take very long. So put that in your pocket.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll shove that in the pocket right there.
it's
It's
not.
lovely to hear that.
Yeah, it's not going to take very long. I mean, I feel it. It's in my heart space, and so I'm pretty sure that I'm right.
Thank you, Maria.
I feel
I
really
would
confident about that.
acknowledge that. Yes.
Yes. So I think what is your, I just want to end with what your absolute what is your your hope, or your what would make you extremely happy? What's your hope for this series, for the book? Is it eventual movie? Is it circulation throughout the world? I mean, you tell me.
Yeah. So I would love to see, because Hollywood at the moment are just butchering everything that they get their hands on. I mean, if you look at the new Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power movie, TV series that they've released, it's just, I mean, not to get into any discussions, because the Tolkien community will slay me if I even pass any form of judgment. But I mean, just, I won't say anything about that. But they're really, Hollywood are butchering everything they get their hands on. So I want the War for Ascension to replace, in a way, because Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, they've had their day.
Right.
Move along.
Right.
We need other stories now. The culture, the ancient Greeks used to say that the culture is on its way out when the art becomes perverted.
Yes.
The culture is on its way out.
Did.
Yeah, yeah, they were very, very
So
profound. I must get the
yeah.
individual, but it's an ancient Greek, sort of a stoic, probably ancient Greek or Roman. They did say when the art form is perverted, the culture's done. It's at its end. So
Yeah.
something must replace that in the new earth, and I want the War for Ascension to be, even if it's just for us. I invite everyone, but
100%. Yeah.
not everyone is going to want to play in this playground. They're still attached to the Atlantean light, and they're still attached to the perversion. That's fine. But I invite you anyway, because it's wholesome for you to read my story. It's good for you. It's like vegetables. Eat your vegetables. They're good for you.
Eat your vegetables.
So
yeah,
yeah.
and quite frankly, you're indirectly going to assist to reverse the spell, the same way
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
they cast the spell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
of course they want to perverse it and manipulate it and make it their own, because that's entertainment, right? I
Yeah.
see that entertainment is going to have a new definition and lots of new meanings, in the coming worlds. I see the Western medical system going down, and I see documentaries about this and how it was brought down. The same thing with the entertainment industry, but the beautiful thing is that your story and this book and this series is going to play a part in raising life back up again, right? Planting
Yeah.
new seeds and growing new life. And that's how I
Yeah.
see it. So congratulations. I mean, it's just really cool to
Thank
talk
you.
to you, and I'm genuinely excited for you. Genuinely.
No, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, beautiful to be able to have this conversation with someone like yourself, Maria, because as you said, everything is interconnected right now, and the health serums and the natural therapies. I even talk about that in my book. I mentioned natural therapies in my book, so it's just incredible the way that everything is connected, and how we've managed to find each other in the
Yeah.
sea of 7.8 billion people. We found each other. It's
It's
amazing.
so cool.
So
I just think it's
yeah,
so cool. I mean, like I said, it's like I get to jump out of
yeah.
my skin every day, and my husband will say, "Who, what?" Like, things like
Yeah.
that. And I think it's very cool. I mean, I just I have a very happy existence right now, and I wish that
Great.
for everyone. It took me going through hell and being on my deathbed several times to really wake me up to, this is what I'm talented at doing, and it's because I do care. So I can make a difference, right? And you have the same approach, in a different industry. And I think it's
Yeah.
amazing because, like I said, it's going to take an army. You think we're going to be able to wake people up just one and done, and it's not going
No,
to happen
we
that way.
have to help each other. Yeah, we have to help each
100%.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much, and I'm glad you guys like everything. And I personally can't wait to dive into the book. I'm gonna stop recording and then hold you over for just a minute and sign off.
Sure.
So hang tight.
You're
And
very welcome, Maria. Thank you so much for doing this.